Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'm really excited to bring to you this review of NerdCandyToys Santa Claus and Oola action figures right in time for Christmas. It's Christmas Eve today, and I was thinking about the first time that I read the Batman Silent Knight team up that started a couple years ago. The first edition was in 2023, second edition was in 2024. Both are collected in trade paperback edition. Both of these stories highly creative. If you haven't ever read them, I highly recommend them. Santa has been introduced to DC in the past, but this sort of canonizes Santa Claus in a more dramatic, heroic way, making him almost like a vampire hunter. And you get to meet his awesome, very powerful elf wife, Oola, Mrs. Claus, in the second series. So these two characters form just a really, really cool addition to the DC universe, and the stories themselves. You heard me talk about their creativity, but where you start to see the creativity comes out is when you hear like Nightwing talk with other characters about Batman's time with Santa and about how they didn't necessarily believe that he spent time with Santa when he was training. And Batman and Santa sort of have this long-standing relationship and call on each other occasionally. So it's cool to see how that plays out and how the other characters interact with Santa once they find out that he's real. I think a couple others may have, like Superman, may have already known he was real. Zatanna perhaps, but I can't remember exactly from the book. But I highly do recommend these stories. Despite not remembering all the details, they're very fun to read. And it's one of those things that I wish DC would turn into an animated holiday movie, because it seems to be a far better sort of holiday push than anything they've done in the past, with the highly creative writing and the character interaction. So much of a cool cross section of the DC universe is included in these books. So these figures come straight from those first two editions, and the only two editions. And what I really love the character design. And several months ago, I was saying to a group of fellow customizers, wow, wouldn't it be cool if this could actually be made? And Brock with NerdCandyToys did something really, really cool. First, he rendered a 3D image with Gemini. And I know there's some, varying views on AI, but it is very cool for people like me who are not very artistic to be able to bring an image to life. You've seen the series of AI renderings I've done over the last few months of vehicles and other things, and figures that I wish we could have gotten in the Superpowers line, and hopefully we'll be able to get in 3D print mold at some point in the very near future. But this was sort of the first example of that to me, where Brock rendered this design and came back with an image, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. This has to be made at some point. And he said, well, guess what? I am making some holiday figures, and we'll include this in the line. So he did that, and Mrs. Claus. And I was thrilled to get this and Oola, because of just the cool and iconic story that they represented in Silent Night. And as you can see, this is a very, very cool edition of Santa. So he has very stylized. He has a weapon, a knife. He also comes with an axe that I am not showing here, but very, very, very cool. He's got the cape that looks very regal, and you can see there's just sort of a plethora of color to this figure. And yeah, some of that's me, but it's mostly on the design itself. I'm just trying to copy the design as much as I possibly could. I could have neutralized a few of the colors to make it sort of, less different options with color, made him a little bit more monochromatic, if that makes sense. But it just looked cooler to have all the different colors represented in this figure, so you can get a very, very good view of the Santa that came from the Silent Night series. And Brock did a really good job of rendering him. So, you can see here, he's got some things that just make him Santa, right? Very, very, from the very beginning, the visage, the face, you can tell this is Santa. He's got the red and white. He also has this green jewel, the 3 green jewels that are on his belt. And I believe those have magical qualities that were talked about and used in one of the books. So very, very cool. And he's got the almost like bear claw type attachments to his gloves, which, sort of makes Santa more of a fierce character. But you can see that there is just a lot of color that went into their design that tried to get copied here. So I'm not the greatest painter in the world, and if you look at Santa a little bit closely, you may say, well, he might have a little bit of the bulging eye problem. But other than that, it's a great figure and love to have him in the DCU. You can see here him interacting with Superpowers Batman. They're a great fit. You know, Claus towers over him a little bit, and that makes him a very fun way for them to interact. And you can see in the book that Claus towers over a lot of the characters. So highly recommend this and hope that people will get it. Now let's take a look at his wife, also a very cool figure. And this is Oola. And for those of you who, you know, love Star Wars, let me bring her in here. Those of you who love Star Wars, you're thinking, oh, wait, Oola, which I think was how Oola was spelled in Star Wars. No, a little bit different. It's Ulah. And, you know, I don't know if that has any meaning or significance or translation beyond that in some Nordic sense, but this is his Santa's elf wife, and she's a very cool warrior as well. You know, it's interesting because if you look at her skin in the book, I tried to make it as light blue as I possibly could because it's a very sort of pale blue in the book itself. And at the time, I didn't think that she resembled anything remotely like one of the characters in Avatar. However, with this light blue rendering that I have here, she looks a little bit Avatar-like. And again, like Santa, has a lot of different colors represented here, especially once you get the orange hair and the blue skin. You are really crossing the color spectrum here in a lot of different ways. So again, could have simplified it, but tried to keep her as traditional looking and close to what was seen in the comic as much as possible. Not an exact perfect representation as in the comics like Santa. There were a couple things that, like the arms, for instance, that were rendered a little bit differently, but that's okay. This is very close and very cool. It did take me a while to paint because, again, there's just so much to it. And but tried to make it look as cool as possible with giving it as much of the color treatment as I could. Love the figure, love how she fits into the DCU as well. Loved her interaction with certain characters in the series. So, and you find out she's a warrior of her own. She is very cool, very independent character, and is formidable to the threats they face in the Silent Knight series. So, highly recommend getting Oola. Again, Brock at NerdCandyToys. He has hit out of the park over the last several releases. He has so many new figures that he has coming not only from himself, but from other designers. These two, I believe, were designed by Brock himself. And, you know, he's been highlighting and featuring other customizers. And again, the goal of this channel has always been to highlight the work of customizers because we really can have the collection that we want. And, you know, even though McFarlane's not producing anything Superpowers related, and we really don't know if anything is on the Mattel front, this is something that we can still participate in, have a great time doing, and that is collecting Superpowers. We just have to look very closely at the collecting community and be able to use them to get what we need. Of course, sometimes that requires us to develop some different skills. If we don't want to paint us someone customized, we have to learn how to paint, we have to learn how to sand, we have to learn how to do a few things that might not be natural. And that's been sort of the journey I've had over the last few years, which is to become a little bit more skilled in those areas. So hopefully you like what you saw today. Again, this is just kind of a quick review, and you go to NerdCandyToys, you can find him on Etsy. I will put a link to his Etsy page in the description, and feel free to leave a comment, and hopefully you'll follow the channel. Thank you. Follow the channel. Thank you. Bye.